So 2014, my name is Richard Arroyo. This is Richard Lico. So you're very lucky to have two Richards. I just wanted to say that.
It's not confusing.
It is not confusing whatsoever.
Not confusing.
So yeah, you had an awesome talk. You talked about Destiny, and how did it go?
I hope it went well. I didn't see that many people get up and leave. So as long as they stayed, I think it's a success.
Yeah. And speaking of success, your game is a huge success. I mean, a lot of people love the game.
Thank you.
Except for me. I adore the game.
You've got no taste.
No, I have no taste. But so you are mean and rude. You know this is live. You know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. So
I'll be nice.
Yeah. Right. So you were talking about the workflow you guys have at Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
And, what do you think the audience took from it? What do you think was the most interesting part? Or do you feel like you blow their minds away, like, holy smokes, the guy does every time in runtime?
Well, I think, the industry in general, I think, has managed to overcomplicate itself into a corner.
Yeah.
And I think that what we were able to do is just take a critical look at, well, what complications are necessary and what can we really cut back on and complications we don't need. And then how do we build back up from there? Right. And I think that having the audience hear how we worked, which is very modular and constantly switching spaces, and then pushing that all into the game engine, I think it's a different approach. Right. And it has its own drawbacks, but I think the benefits we've managed to achieve from that were obvious in a lot of the footage that I was able to show. And I think that the crew got it. I think the people watching got it.
Yeah, I think so too. One thing I think it's cool, for those who don't know, you teach at iAnimate. You're one of our instructors, who's freaking awesome. I love him, I hate him all at the same time. Like I do Brent here. We'll have Brent jump on stage really, really quickly afterwards. But you also talk about this in your class. You even show it. Do you show exactly what you were showing here at MIGS?
Yeah, I show. When I work at home, I just have my own little personal scripts. I don't have quite the nice polished Bungie rigs that we have at work, but all the same workflows I use at home, and I teach in the class, and I make everybody really confused in the first 2 weeks. And then the picture becomes clearer as the 14-week goes on. Yeah.
And do you think it has improved their workflow or improved their animation?
I believe it has. I take a look at, if you look at Sebastian Dussault and a few of the other students that I've had, if you look at the results that they're getting, I think that's, regardless of what they say or what I think is happening, I just look at those results and I think, okay, well, they understood it. They're really hard workers, they put in a lot of effort, and I think watching them do some of these tricks and then getting good results, I think is the best way to gauge. Yeah. And I think it helps motivate me to teach more too, seeing what they've been able to accomplish. Yeah. So I look at their work and I'm just blown away.
Yeah. And you do this live, right? You do this in front of the students, because you were talking in your presentation how you did, I think it was the walk and run cycle in Destiny, the shoot cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And you, in runtime, you literally took the walk forward and you made it into right, and it took you about 20 seconds to run the script, or
just run the script. You press the button, you got to run right.
So this easy go, is that the button?
It's the easy button. It's big and red too. It's great.
Is it red at Bungie too?
Yeah, of course. Just press the big red button. Something in Russia goes boom. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's literally you're creating animations on the fly really fast. It's like you could create that in what? 5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours?
All right, so you have to make a run front. Yeah. So you need some content to base it off of. Right. And then you can take the information that's already in that run cycle, and you could turn it into a run right. You can use it to build off of a jog. Essentially, instead of starting from scratch, converting the data into a format that better fits your intentions on a new clip is really it's a great place to start. I mean, if you take a run front, you turn it into a run right, you're 90% of the way there. Yeah. Now all you have to do is polish it, export it into game. Yeah, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah. So how long does it take you to create a run?
Well, I could do a pretty sloppy one in an hour.
He's being modest.
The polished ones in Destiny, I ended up having to do a lot of polish and rework towards the end of the game just to make it shine. Yeah. And they were taking a few hours each.
Yeah. So that's amazing. That's really, it says something about the workflow, how adaptive it is. And and you're also showing how you can you're doing the foot plans.
Yeah, that's cool. Movable pivots.
Yeah, movable pivots. That's something you don't hear often in you know, some of the studios, or even in like feature, like talking like, let's just move the pivot.
Yeah, it's so simple, right?
Yeah, just do it. It's like we have everything already, and like 25 controllers to make the foot pivot.
Oh yeah, and then it's like, oh,
all
the
the
foot's doing
curves.
something weird. What happened? Where's this curve? I don't know. Look at the football roll thingy. Look at the Z, whatever. I don't know. So many keys. But when you actually move the pivots around, you have translation and rotation.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And then when you want to work from a different part of the foot, you essentially put it there, convert the keys. You're still working on that same one set of keys.
Yeah.
And those keys represent exactly what that foot is doing.
Yeah.
So you could look at the curves and you could know, okay, I could tell what my foot's doing. It's not like, where did this curve go? Where? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say exact set of keys, is there a separate set of keys for like the toe roll, or is there only really one set of keys?
Well, it's one set of key for the majority of the foot.
Yes.
If we want to separate the toe, we can.
Yes.
So it's just an option when we do it. We have an option to include toe or not. But the toe would be separate if we wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And we usually put the toe in world space.
Yes.
So any rotations on the toe are, directly represented in your graph editor.
Yeah. Pretty powerful stuff.
It's fun, yeah. You can make the toe local too, but it's automatically that way. So
I like how you just said, you just make it local. Like, yes, no, like, yeah, sure, don't worry about it.
It's just a convert. Press a button. It's the easy button, remember? It's just
Yeah. So are you like this with your students? Are you like, I'm sure you're a really nice guy with your students, right?
I'm a jerk. No, so far no one has quit my class. So hopefully they would say good things about me.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that they learn. So sometimes my critiques can come across a bit heavy-handed, but it's just what's needed to be said to make them as good as possible, as good animators as possible. Because when you're learning, it's a safe environment for failure.
Yes, absolutely.
But when you're at a studio and you fail, it usually results in a pink slip as opposed to a lecture.
Yeah.
So I try and make it so even if I have to deliver a hard critique, I do it in a positive way, but I also let them know that this is important for their future. Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, the industry has changed, right? We all know before it was much easier than it is today. Now, expectations are high. If you want to work on some of the stuff like you're doing, it's not, you're not going to just come out and like, oh yeah, I want the combat system or the combat animation or the major sequence. People need to come prepared. They need to be properly trained or have the right mindset. Really everything.
Yeah.
It's you need to be like a complete set, right?
Yeah, you do. I know if you come to Bungie,
yes, and
your highest quality bar does not meet the lowest quality bar of the rest of our animators, you don't get to stay. Yeah. And it's a lot of hard work because a lot of students think, well, I've grown this much over the last year and it's great, I'm glad, right? But it's not comparing yourself against your past work, it's comparing yourself against the people you'll be working with. Yeah. And making sure that you're good enough to run with the big dogs. It's
or even with the industry.
Yeah, any studio.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wasn't actually specifically even referring to Bungie. I mean, that's true. Just period. Working in animation and film or games.
Yeah. I mean, everyone industry always wants to work with someone that's great, or they can learn from or share with. Even share ideas, which I'm trying to steal a few ideas from you. So we'll talk later. After
I don't have any. You're screwed.
Oh man. Well, we're not going to talk then. I'll talk to Brent. Hey, Brent, how you doing?
Hey, Brent, you want to take this seat here? Let's go.
So do you guys have any questions while we're here? I mean,
I asked it earlier.
Yeah. We'll just ask it again. What was it?
Basically, how did you manage to enroll your animator into taking the time, using the opportunity to just make a transition from one set of keys to another set of keys instead of trying to always keep their key poses, keyframes.
$100 bills work really well.
So the question was, so the question was, just for the audience to understand, how does you keep your animators to?
How do you get them to accept
baked data?
How did you get to the?
Baking instead of
Okay, good question. Yeah. So how did the precious keyframes? So traditionally, most animators work in keyframes with a control rig. You are completely like screw the control rig. use the control points pretty much. Would that be
just focal points.
Focal points, and use that to create your animation. So, great question. How was it for your? You had how big was the animation team? Roughly, don't have to give me precise numbers.
Well, with contractors and everything, we scaled anywhere from 8 to 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. So how was it for them to transition from that, coming from more traditional regular animation to going to your system?
Well, the great thing about our system is they're not required to do this. Mm-hmm. So they can set their rig up in one way and then just stay working that way.
As long as they get results, right?
Yeah. So it's essentially what we do is we supply them with options.
Okay.
So we give them a pretty basic rig, and then we let them use with this whole list of tools that they could apply to this rig. It's kind of like modules you plug in, right?
Yeah.
We just let them pull over what they want, and they can choose to either just work in one way, or they can choose to convert as they go.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is over time, when the guy you're sitting next to is doing something really quickly, and getting good results, you'll naturally lean over and say, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, baking isn't that big of a taboo because you saw it as successful, and that's a big motivator.
You saw, And I like how you said, someone leans over and it's like how you do that, and you're showing, and it kind of comes to a question. I don't know if I asked you before, but why was one of the reasons that you came to teach with us? I mean, you have taught before. You can go anywhere in the world if you really wanted to. Not anymore, because then we'll hunt you down. But why did you join? This is a family entertainment here, and any question goes. But why did you? Why did you choose to teach with us?
No other school is really teaching game development and animation the way iAnimate is, and it was one of the first schools to do it. And when years ago when I was looking at applicants that needed to, I needed to review their reels and stuff, I had so many reels from competing schools that all looked the same.
Yep.
And it was all the talking head doing some dramatic action, and it was hard to really tell anyone apart.
Right.
So I'd see, this guy's like, well, whose reel was that? Wasn't that this guy's? And everyone was interchangeable at that point.
Right.
So when I started seeing what you guys wanted to do, and you're pitching that this was going to be a game-centric approach, suddenly, we're going to be getting students that understand body mechanics way more, that understand gameplay requirements, design systems, and can understand, animating in games and film is pretty different.
Yeah.
And to know that iAnimate is going to be teaching to the people that we need to hire, it's like I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to look at another talking head, reel again. I wanted to see the good stuff. Yeah, you like the body mechanics, the actions that we've been doing, the cycles, really, because I mean, I don't know, when we have your reel supposed to be playing, it's okay, it's all good. If everyone's seen, go online and look up Richard Lico on Vimeo, right? His reel is killer. Go to foofinu.com, FOOFINU.com.
Yeah.
It's a horrible name, I know. But
it is a horrible name. Just look up Richard Lico demo reel. It's so much easier.
Yeah, the one on my website has the good music.
Whatever, he's whatever. But he's so talented. We it's okay for his little quirks. Thank you, Brent. So.
What are you talking about?
I forgot what I was talking about. I did forgot what I was talking about.
We were talking about iAnimate.
Yes.
The reason for teaching there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So iAnimate's a great place to learn. But
hey, you should join us.
I think I will join iAnimate. And we have another block coming up, so definitely be joining you guys. But I know we've been both fighting over a few animators, and one particular Seb we've been trying to fight over. But have you been surprised by the talent that the students been delivering from your workshop, or overall have you been surprised, or this is what you expect?
Yeah, it's. I was actually really shocked. The last semester I taught, there was. I wish I could remember his name now. There was one of the guys that was really just it was really early in his learning process.
Right.
So when you saw a cycle, it was really far off base. And by the time the 14 weeks were over, his key framework looked close to being mocap. Like, it looks really physical, really meaty and weighty. And to see him go from just so new to that far, I mean, the guy was amazing. Like, I have to give him so much credit. But he was also a sponge. He was just taking in all the information. And it was just amazing to see that transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes for the environment that we were able to put our students in. I mean, really, we have you, we have Brent George, we have David Lamb, we have so many talented...
You teach? You gotta give
yeah,
some credit
I'm okay. I like to say I'm a very nice guy. I've been pushing that so hard.
Wait. You had a nickname.
Let's not go there.
The emissary of evil or something?
No, that's nice though. That is nice. That does have a nice ring to it. But yeah, I think the talent that we have with the instructors really reflects well with the students. So.
Yeah, really good instructors. It's really inspirational to know that I'm teaching alongside some of the industry's best, and I'm humbled by the opportunity.
Oh no, we're very lucky, and I think it also helps with, you were talking about the style. Like, not everyone's reel will look alike. A lot of the animators will pick up from their instructors a certain style, but when they move on to another instructor, it's totally different. It's totally everyone coming from a different background, a different experience. So I think that helps the students learn faster as well.
Yeah, having all those different approaches, it's probably very confusing to them at times, but it's a great way to really just get more diverse in your approach, and really just, okay, I like this workflow, I like that workflow, and just take what you want out of it.
Yeah, right. Do you guys have any questions? I feel like I'm hogging all of Lico's time. No. I was like, what? We're here. So, yeah, let's see. We're okay. We're pretty much right on time.
Right on time?
We are right on time.
Wrapping it up?
Are we wrapping it up? We're good. Yeah, definitely. So, you know what, Richard?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We do have a really cool... Again, you'll be teaching in January.
Yep. I'm going to do a one-off semester.
Yeah. Again, so it's, if you're looking to jump in, now's the time. If you want to grab Richard before he goes back into another
cryostasis.
Cryostasis.
I'll be back to teaching probably again the year after.
Yeah. So Lico, I think that's really quick. An advantage we have is that we have instructors that come and go. Because they're very, very busy guys. But if you can and it works out, Richard Lico is a fantastic.
And you learn amazing things with locators.
And you'll learn so much with locators. So again, thank you.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And we'll be talking later.
Cool.
All right, awesome. So I want to do is kick you off the stage. Bye. I want to bring in another guest, Jeremy Collins, who's an awesome animator from Blizzard. So let's bring Jeremy on board here. All right, Jeremy, how you doing, brother?
Rick, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. So we got you early today. Your talk is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're going to be talking about, what are you going to be talking about, really? I'll let you,
Well, the talk is called Crafting Keyframes, Creating Epic Animation for World of Warcraft. So I'm an animator on the World of Warcraft team at Blizzard. And a lot of the talk is kind of about the layered animation workflow that I go through on ready, like combat ready animations or like idle cycles.
Right.
I have two separate kind of approaches. For attacks, I like to use kind of a stepped key, traditional, more kind of pose-to-pose approach to animating.
Right.
For these kind of combat idols, I do kind of like a layered animation, and it's heavily graph editor based. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of kind of curve manipulation, trying to make like an appealing cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. And then I talk a lot about just character appeal, posing for, the greatest visual impact. Trying to make a character look appealing on the screen is different than making a character work physically. Those are kind of two separate worlds. Yeah. And so combining them together makes great animation.
Right. And before we talk about World of Warcraft, before games, you were in feature. You worked at Disney. And you also have, did you do also a little bit of, you did study traditional animation, if I remember correctly?
I didn't actually. I have a degree in computer animation.
Okay.
But I spent the majority of my career at Sony Pictures ImageWorks.
Right.
I did a stint at Disney for Tangled. I've been back to ImageWorks a bunch of times after that. And then in between there, I did a lot of I did a summer at Naughty Dog working on Uncharted.
Yeah.
Uncharted 2. And then a lot of it was like, I did a lot of TV animation. And I kind of go into that in my talk, kind of like, I have a really weird background when it comes to animation. I made kind of a weird loop into games.
You
animation.
in like film, TV, games, games, TV, which usually people start with, like TV.
Yeah.
Games, films. Where you're like, no, I like, let's
well,
go,
TV was always kind of like a filler. Well, as you know, the video game, or not the video game, but the film industry and the TV industry is very kind of like job to job, gun for hire.
Yeah, gun for hire, yeah.
So a lot of what I used the TV stuff was to just kind of fill in the gaps between movies or between games or whatever, stuff like that.
So was it a good experience? Did you find that you were able to pick up some great stuff that you're using now for games? Or do you feel like it's really, it's two different worlds? Because the game has so much, more dealing with the engine, dealing with the player response. Cameras. It's not a fixed camera; it's a 3D camera.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the gist of it.
Right.
Basically, like all those different jobs. I just see myself as kind of an accumulation of all that knowledge. Like there isn't a job you can take that doesn't offer some sort of valuable advice or education for you as an animator. Mm-hmm. So, even those TV jobs, I learned a lot about being kind of like a jack of all trades, knowing how to model, and at least knowing the basics of rigging and the basics of texturing, the basics of lighting. Maybe you're not one of those specialized people, but all that stuff like adds to you as a whole as an animator. Yeah. So same thing with games. Games is just a different challenge for animation. Right. We have to work with these gameplay constraints a lot of the times, and that I don't see those constraints as a con. I see those as a pro. I'm trying to how can I make my animation sing in the amount of time I'm given with the technological kind of hurdles that we have to overcome. So that's basically my job right now at Blizzard.
Yeah, so
working around that.
Yeah, so you're working at a very high level in feature, and now you're working at Blizzard, which everyone just loves Blizzard. I mean, they're known, very known studio. They do everything they touch is like gold, right? Hi, Blizzard. So tell us a little bit what you're going to be talking about tomorrow. I mean, so you're going to be talking about cycles and your workflow. Can you tell us a little bit more, what's your thinking process? And
Sure. So the talk kind of begins with basically just kind of an overview of my background, the different things that I've learned from each studio that I've been at, and kind of blends into the layered workflow of progressive breaking of joints.
Right.
So for ready combat animations, since everything in that animation lives in this one pose, right? I want to put as much time as I can into making that singular pose as appealing as possible. Right. Because it's on the screen for so long. Right. I mean, idle animations are arguably the animation you see the most in any video game. Yeah. So to have an ugly pose to begin with, doesn't matter what your animation looks like afterwards. It always goes to that ugly pose. It kind of takes away. Right. So basically, it's constructing that first pose and then working from the root of the character, or we call it the root, but sometimes it's called the cog, or sometimes it's called
center of gravity.
Yeah, center of gravity, right. Working because all motion, unless you're being acted upon, comes from your root. Right. So we start with the root, and then we kind of sort of design the arcs that we want to see inside of the animation. Right. So I'm layering different axes in there, and I'm trying to avoid the dreaded every key on the same frame. Right. Because that leads to just unappealing motion. Right. So how can we offset the keys in interesting ways and still make really appealing looking cycles? Right. So we're building up from the root through the spine out to the extremities and thinking about things like weight and kind of appealing posing and kind of how each layered cycle of a limb kind of works in concert with the other limbs inside of a character. And then I touch a little bit on the kind of pose-to-pose method of, I use that a lot for attacks or for an emote animation, which is a lot longer. Yeah. I'll have my kind of golden poses inside of things. Right. But we've developed this kind of language inside of games for an idol looks like this, Yeah. There's heavy breathing and they got the shoulders. Yeah. And that's been established for a long time. How can we push that and make it appealing for something like World of Warcraft, which it's cycles everywhere? Right. So, yeah, that's basically it.
So, you were talking about how everything generates from the cog, right?
Yeah, the root of the character.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, are you also thinking about do you, how can I ask this? Do you think about not just the rhythm of it, but are you also kind of thinking of how the emotion is being portrayed from that? Does that make sense? You know, like
I mean, that's part of the talk.
Yeah.
So there's actually a slide, and it looks kind of ridiculous. But a lot of what I do when I'm animating is I'll kind of like, it's really easy to prototype the root's motion in an animation. Yeah. It's really easy for me to go in and on 2 or 3 axes, just plot out some curves and get the kind of cadence or like the breath of a certain animation.
Right.
So like I got a slide that's like 5 different, I use Blackhand. Blackhand's one of the Warlords of Draenor in our new expansion, Warlords of Draenor.
Hello, everybody.
This Thursday.
This Thursday?
Is it? No, sorry, next Thursday. It's
next
not
Thursday.
Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're so sorry. Next Thursday.
This coming Thursday. Warlords of Draenor.
A must.
So I kind of plot out 5 different kind of like cadences to that root, and I kind of choose the one that I think works best for the character. You can change the frequency of that curve, and that also changes the breathing rate of the character.
Right.
So that's kind of important to me, and we really like iteration at Blizzard, and that's something I'm very big on in my own animation is iterating, like always trying new things.
Right.
And a lot of my workflow involves cleaning up as you go.
Right.
Dealing with, a lot of times we also, like Richard, deal with baked data because we're transferring animations a lot. Cleaning up curves so that scaling animation can happen a lot easier than it would normally. When you have baked data, it gets really hard to scale animation because you start losing frames in the in-between frames.
Right.
You're losing drawings in the in-between frames. So just cleaning up as you go so that you want a really clean cycle so that anybody could pick up that cycle and push it, pull it in any which way direction, and it still holds up on its own.
Do you often rate scale your animation in engine, or you always do it in your software?
Yeah, designers. We're working.
Well, I mean, you could do both. You know, you can do both. But do you prefer doing it in in your 3D package, or would you just go in like, this needs to be fast, go in rate scale 1.2, 1.5?
We're trying to get around that. So historically in WoW, designers have the ability to obviously speed up or slow down animations, but it doesn't take into factor weight.
Right.
And so a lot of times in an MMO, you'll have that giant guy going like buzzing across the screen, and you're just like, something feels off about the character's weight there. And that's because an animator hasn't touched it. Right. We're trying now in future expansions to kind of get to that point where we're trying to get to the point where design goes, listen, this guy's going to be huge, and we're going to need him to run fast and run slow. How do you guys want to do that? And we'll kind of, in animation, scale and kind of push and pull our curves a little bit to get that kind of like motion that they need without having to kind of do an in-engine solution.
Right. So so let's say, new question, right? If I was a young guy trying to get into Blizzard, what kind of animations would you like to see on Israel? Tough question.
It's a tough question. I look at a lot of reels at Blizzard.
What do you see that you don't like or you don't see enough of? You know, you don't see enough cycles. You don't see, like Lico says, I see a lot of the big head overacting. I don't see anything that's action-based.
Subtle,
Yeah.
I guess what I want to see is, the first and foremost thing is I want to see something I haven't seen before. Right. I would rate something that I haven't seen before that isn't as well animated above something that I have seen a million times before that is really well animated. All that, you have all that reference, right? Yeah. How many times have we seen the guy picking up the heavy box and stuff like that? Yeah. That's been done, and it's an excellent exercise for learning weight.
Yes.
How can we get creative with that?
Yeah.
How can you show me pathos of a character, like the character's background and where he's coming from in that box lift? How does he lift the box?
Right.
That type of stuff, we eat up. We love it. Because that tells me that you're passionate about the thing that you're doing, and you're not just trying to, assembly line stamp it out. And then also tells me that, you're like doing your research to kind of, this is what we do, right? We animate, we make characters come to life.
Right.
Without that kind of background, it's kind of like a hollow shell, So, creativity in your animation. Obviously, we have a test that we give out at Blizzard. That test, just being as completely creative as possible in that test, I don't want to see a standard attack. Give me something for my money, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
But give it to me fast. Because Blizzard is very much about, we need we have a lot to do in WoW. There's 12 full-time animators that work on WoW from all different backgrounds. We need to push out, and we have a ton of characters in the World of Warcraft. We need to push out as much animation as possible. So being quick, but also being creative are two very important things.
Right.
And then just passion. Passion goes miles with me, because if you're passionate about something, you're automatically invested in your outcome, right? If you're not passionate about that thing, the product just kind of falls flat. So if you're passionate about the World of Warcraft, if you're passionate about animation in general, have that show up, and whenever we end up talking to you, and that's huge with us, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe a little biased here, but the students that come to our workshops, with regards if it's feature or games, they're really passionate. They really want to learn. They really want to not just do what their assignments, but they really want to exceed. They really want to show that they have what it takes to, get into the industry. They want to say, please, look, I love what I do, but it's not just pure love. I've studied it. I learned from amazing instructors. Look what I can do, and I haven't even reached my my peak, and I'm still learning, and I really wanted to get in working like studio. And I'm sure Blizzard is an amazing studio.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of great iAnimate reels come into Blizzard. It's excellent stuff. Yeah.
So what are some of the guys saying about the reels from iAnimate?
Well, I mean, we're always looking at animation that's appealing and that has kind of the basic 12 principles of animation. And most of the time, the iAnimate students, the stuff that I've seen has been really good coming from that.
That's good. You hear that? That's good. So you definitely want to keep your guard up, and deliver. So yeah. Did you guys have any quick questions for him in regards to his talk or about? Richard Lico. Richard Lico here has a question for you.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest difference between film work and game work? Tough question.
Wow, where do I begin with the differences? Well, some of it I talk about in crafting keyframes. The biggest difference is cultural for me.
Oh, your reel's up.
Oh, yeah. It's cultural. It's not there's a lot of differences on the animation side. I really love the idea of making games as kind of a unit of people all working together to create that same thing. In film, there's definitely that sense, but it's so much more fleeting. It's like flash in the pan, right? It's like you get there and you have a little bit of time to kind of like coalesce with other people, but then it's like 9 months, 10 months later, movie's over, we gotta ship it, next movie, or go somewhere else. So that's the biggest thing. I love being in a group of people that I've stuck with throughout the years that we're all pushing to make the same thing. Now, like, technically, so much is different. Working with a lock camera in film, and I talk about this in the talk as well, you can do so many tricks to hide things with a lock camera that, I mean, half the time I don't even animate the legs if I have a mid shot.
I'm just moving the room.
IK legs are just stuck here and the body's like moving around the whole time.
But it looks great on top, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter because,
By the way, we are wearing nothing but pajamas, so if you see here, it's just our shirt, and then below is just in case. Anyway.
So yeah, a lot of times, like, I don't care what goes back there. I don't care if there's an arm back here that's all jacked up, as long as the perspective looks good from the camera view. And then time. We have a lot more time to craft animation in film per shot, but you output quite a bit less. So, in a movie, I'll get maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of animation. Maybe that's generous. Yeah, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of animation per movie. In a game, everywhere I look, there's something I've touched at some point. Right. So it's just, it's different worlds. But there's a lot of similarities in terms of like workflow is very similar.
What about ownership? Like example, most production I have, any animator can have ownership on their shot, their system. If they come up with a great idea and they want to continue to like drive it. To me, it's like by all means, like go ahead and drive it as long as we're in our our time frame, because our game production is tight, as you mentioned before. But if you can deliver something or bring something new to the table that's awesome, I have no problem with sidetracking from the original idea. Versus film is a little bit more, you have your animatic, your storyboards, the character post sheets, like this is how he moves, walks. You have character leads, Do you find there's a big difference in the ownership?
Yeah, it depends on the director and the animation supervisor on the movie, but mostly the director. Yeah. So there have been movies where the director is very much by the boards. Yeah. So this is the board, we need to see this. It was meticulously crafted in story to be this in animation.
Yes.
But the most fun I've had animating on a movie was on this movie called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Chris Pern.
Chris Pern was the story guy, head of story, right? But the directors, Chris Miller and Phil Lord, they were really open to us kind of pitching our ideas.
Yeah.
And my classic kind of anecdote for that is there's a scene when Flint has built the Jell-O mold for Sam, and he's kind of inviting her into it. Yeah. And he walks into the Jell-O, and he comes out and he sticks his hand out and he says, "Join me." Mm-hmm. Well, in the boards, it was just the hand popping out of the Jell-O, "Join me." Mm-hmm. The animator, Jason Figliozzi, he was like, what if I had the hand come out and go, "Join me," like talk with the hand?
Yeah, yeah.
The directors thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Made it into the movie.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like back and forth between us and the directors was the best. I loved it. It was great. And we were encouraged to do that on every shot, just kind of push the funny. They trusted us that we're animators. We're probably funny people to begin with because we're animating these wacky characters.
Yeah.
We're influenced by things like the Muppets on that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Muppets
UPA,
everywhere,
UPA animation, especially with the timing, like Gerald McBoing Boing kind of moves his legs like this. These are all interesting things to us.
Yeah.
So they trusted us a little bit, and that trust led to some really funny scenes in the movie.
That's awesome. And you get the same trust at Blizzard and some of the game projects you've worked on, if you get more of it?
Absolutely. You have that trust, but at the same time, your work. So a well-rounded animator knows his limits, his bounds, right? Like, I'd love to do a big kind of like huge anticipation, smash down type animation. It's not going to work in game because player feedback is important to it, and gameplay first. That's one of Blizzard's tenets, right? Yeah. We always have gameplay first. So when you press that button, you expect something to happen.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like in Diablo's animations, for the most part, their attacks all start in that kind of
already at the highest
They're
point.
At the anticipation.
They just snap into and then they hit it. Yeah.
Because when you click that button on the keyboard, that's what you want to see, that player feedback. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. And that was really important to that game. There's a little bit more cushion in WoW. Because it's an MMO, I feel like the technology gives us a little bit of padding. Yeah. But we still need to hit our contact frame by about frame 7 or 8 in attacks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a 4 or 5 frame, but it's 7 and 8. So you still got that.
We get a little bit of cushion, yeah. So, working around those kind of, I guess, kind of like technical considerations is kind of what makes an excellent animator, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was amazing. So, is there anything you want to talk about, or things coming up?
Warlord's Draenor next week. That's it. Really. I mean, we're all just kind of really super stoked to get it out, and we've been working so hard on it. We spent a lot of time cleaning and polishing and buffing old animations to make them look new in World of Warcraft. So we have these new HD models that were coming out with the expansion, and so a lot of the animation in it has also been upgraded to HD.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
Look out for that, and that's basically it. Keep animating.
Keep animating, and obviously if anyone is looking to improve their skills, grow their skills, or learn from amazing guys, Richard Lico, Jeremy, Brent, and all our, Brett. There's so many amazing guys. Obviously come to iAnimate. We have a fantastic feature program, and obviously if you want to learn games, we have an amazing games program, creature program, motion capture program, a rigging program. So we have amazing programs. So if anything, come on site. If you have any questions as well, you can always email me at rick@ianimate.net. Again, rick@ianimate.net, or find us on the web or on our Facebook. Follow us, tweet us. We're there to answer any question you have. And again, thank you for being here with us. And thank you guys for sitting and hanging with us. And thank you to twitch.net for having us online. And that's it.
Cool, man. Thanks, Rick.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.